Hi, I'm Dani. Welcome to my first light talk, I guess. Sitting outside because the sun is hitting. You don't get much around here in Vienna. I talked the other day to a very inspiring person, Artu Nepomuceno. He's a photographer from the Philippines. Honestly, I loved it. I wanted to share. Maybe you find it also inspiring. Let's get into it. What would be the happiest memory as a child for you?
Wow, I did not expect those kind of questions. Getting the I'm proud of you moments or glimpses from my parents and grandparents, like it wasn't really said, but if I did something impressive as a kid, I would be able to look back at my family and be like, "Oh, okay, I impressed them. They're pretty happy with me." So those are kind of like maybe those happiest moments. I can't say a specific time, but I can say that was like the specific feeling, that
Yes.
approval by my loved ones. Yeah.
Do you think that plays a role in your work? Maybe that led you to photography?
100%. Actually, my late grandfather was a filmmaker here in the Philippines, and growing up, he taught me everything. I wanted to become a filmmaker, and then before I made the switch to studying film, he interrupted me and he told me that I had to take photography first. And then I asked him why, and he said, if a film, if a movie is composed of 1,000 images, then you must be able to create a story with a single image. So from that point, he's been like, until he passed away, he kind of just trained me every day to try to achieve stories through a single photograph. And along that way, he was very technical with me. He taught me how to light. He taught me how to understand light and on an everyday basis. So yeah, for sure, I would say my whole life revolves around photography because my family has been so supportive.
Wow, that seems like a wise man, your dad.
Yeah, he was.
I watched your interview on Print Collective's YouTube channel,
Right.
and you mentioned in the beginning that you are also a documentarian for an organization that provides water filters for
Yes, that's correct.
communities that need access to clean wastewater water, right?
Yes, that's correct.
How did you end up doing that?
Well, I have been and have always been working in the magazine industry here in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
My whole career revolves around the support that I get from the magazine industry, but with all the career opportunities they provide. And in the very beginning, one of the first opportunities that I had was I had to do a feature or a story um, on the organization called Waves for Water, and it was on the Philippine leg. So basically, what was happening? It was World Water Day, and I had to document um, the Philippine leg giving water filters to some communities in the Philippines. And from that process of photographing it, I kind of just fell in love with the organization. I told the country head that I wanted to be more involved. I didn't want to get paid or anything. I just wanted to be sent to all these different provinces and just be part of the experience. And from there, the relationship kept on growing. And it's been 8 years already of me being with them. And the organization kind of kind of put me up a little bit higher. They started sending me to other countries. So Waves for Waters brought me to like Mongolia, Nepal, India. Most recently, I came back from last year. I came back from Bhutan, and that's the one that you saw through Print Collective. So my primary role is creating images that kind of continue to tell the story, and hopefully the images that I get to create help new partnerships with brands to kind of inspire brands to be part and kind of, well, give their money to our NGO so that we can continue giving water filters.
This is very inspiring. And I'm just really happy because I see you have the photograph of the ladies in
Yes,
Bhutan, right? Is it this metal material that you?
yes, this is exactly it. It's metal.
I was completely unaware about this in photography. I mean, I'm not from the industry, but I found that so fascinating that you mentioned these different materials like glass, metal, even digitally from a video, the photo has more power. like, and you see
That
it. When
yeah.
I wanted to ask, what is your, when you have a photograph and you want to print it, how do you come to the decision which material comes better?
Oh, that's a very tricky question.
Oh, I don't want to make you feel
But
uh,
no, I love it. I love it's tough because on my end, I tend to really rely on certain feelings. And when I mean by feelings, I mean like when I look at a photograph digitally, it'd be like, what do I feel like it should, where does it belong? I think that's really the question. If it belongs in someone's home, then my tendency is not to think of something quite polished. It has to have a certain sense of timelessness. So like for example, this metal print was the first time that I actually printed something on metal, and I was quite fascinated by it. And I super love this print here at home, but I don't necessarily think it is the perfect fit for many homes. Like if you're thinking of something very traditional, like an old European home, or if you're thinking like a, you know, one of those oldish kind of, yeah, very traditional homes, I would imagine something that feels more like a painting. So either print on canvas or print on archival paper and then frame them in traditional wooden frames with maybe off-white kind of matting. You know, those certain things where it kind of amplifies the narrative of the home. But if you go to some kind of minimalist home or a modern home, then maybe metal kind of applies pretty well.
hmm,
And together with that, of course, is the most important, which is the what the photograph is.
hmm,
Some, like, if example, if it's like a really powerful black and white image, sometimes the image might not speak so loud if it's like in in archival paper, which is kind of like a matte finish where the blacks become a bit gray because the paper absorbs the black not too well. And then but a black and white image might just explode really beautifully in metal because the metal just doesn't absorb it. It's just kind of shining and kind of brilliant. So yeah, there's a lot of play a factor in it. And in the next couple of weeks, actually, I have a show here in the Philippines, and I'm doing a mix. There are a bunch of black and white images, and it's going to be a mix of a couple of metal prints and a couple of paper prints, which we're going to be testing out. So yeah, I would say if I'm not, I wouldn't know the best, but I'm trying to learn which is the best to print. Yeah.
that also reminded me about something you also said in this interview that I really liked, because you said if a picture looks good digitally and it doesn't turn out really well on print, it means that you made a mistake. What things in the picture when you see it and you're like, this is not right? What factors play a role in that?
I think for photography, I think on my end, photography is such a sentimental craft, or it's such an emotional craft. And sometimes photographers, we tend to go towards the line of perfection, or we try to go for something that will be impressive to a certain brand or to a certain clientele. And I think the most honest photographs tend to be those that are kind of true to the artist or true to the subject. So I with my photographs, there's not a very specific criteria that makes me think, oh, on print it looks bad and I did something wrong. But it's more like I might have betrayed my image because the initial feeling that I have when I took the photo is very different from the post processing. And I know that all sounds very philosophical, but I guess in a more broken down aspect of it, I would say maybe I tried to perfect the image too much. Like if I see that the shadows were intentionally dark, and then I suddenly try to lessen the shadows because it is known that it should be this way, or it was taught to as a blueprint that it should be this way, then that might have been that process of betrayal. So I think in the process of creating a photograph, nowadays I've kind of learned to let things marinate, let the images rest in my computer first before getting too excited to edit, just so that I can kind of try to lock in on the feelings of how the photos came through. And then when I go back to editing, I'm in the right state of mind. Right state of mind in the sense that when the photos do get printed, if I'm happy with the images, regardless of the difference it might have between the digital version and the print version. I'll still be happy because it still conveys the same emotion and the same message that I'm hoping to achieve.
Yes, in the end, I think it, from what I understood, it all comes down to this emotion.
Exactly.
What you said about the shadows and stuff, they're not dark enough or they're not this and that. It all comes down to evoking that emotion with the shadows, maybe, or that plays a huge role. I understand that. I saw your work on your website. At this point, you probably think I'm stalking you, but no, I'm not. Just
I
admiring.
think a compliment. Thank you so much for seeing my work.
Something that I really liked is it's about this topic of timelessness again, right? Where you explain that how to create a picture of someone that you need to take a picture of, and create that timelessness feeling, like a picture, like you said, of that their grandchildren will see, and so on and so forth. What is the process, say, when you come into a photo shoot and you need to take a photograph of a lady or whoever, really? Do you have a process on getting to know them first, or do you have a method, or where is it that you say that's my picture?
The photo shoot, let's say, for example, is in their home. If I have the opportunity, the first thing I'm going to do is kind of linger around the house
Mm.
when the subject's not looking, see if there are family photos kind of displayed around, just to kind of see what is part of their daily lives, what matters to them. So if I see images that are kind of mounted on a table by the door, or there are a lot of personal images of like children, grandchildren, parents, and whatnot, then I'll know that they're a family person. If there are no images, then I have to kind of find what matters to them. And then certain things like, will I hear their family roaming around the house? Is their family present?
Mm.
Or are there dogs, are there pets, and then also like, if there are no photos of family, then are there like awards, or are there art pieces? There's a lot that you can kind of figure out from getting to know about a person based on the way the home is kind of set up. And then from there, I kind of get ready to build up my questions when we're doing the photo shoot. My goal is to always make them as comfortable as possible, because I want them to be able to be themselves even for just a minute or an hour. It depends. So I tend to ask silly questions like, if example this woman is a family person, I'll tell them to look at the camera and think of their favorite child, and they're not, and I make it very specific to think about their favorite child, because they'll get that sort of guilty feeling that they're thinking about someone even if they're not really supposed to have a favorite child. And so those things, it makes them kind of like feel a little bit silly, and it gets a little bit of a laugh out. And my job is to just be able to have a very fast response time in capturing those moments, because I can't make them repeat those feelings.
What do you in general look for in gear to know what you as a photographer need so that we can support you better?
First off, I want to say thank you. That the idea of building our relationship with you guys sounds really exciting. My 2024 has just been made by this conversation.
We agree.
Um, Portability is such an important thing. Being able to travel. One thing that like I know, which made me follow you guys, is you have products that kind of have that kind of flexibility. It's portable in terms of size, but it doesn't mean I have to set up my light in a very, very specific way to achieve the desired results from your product. It seems like it's flexible enough for me to kind of play around with different kinds of manners, either be outside or in the studio. Innovation would be just really another key word that I'd have to throw out. Like, if you guys were since you guys were already able to create a product that that simplifies a very complicated setup, then I can imagine you guys creating way more products that will address many other things.
One of my questions was, if you think natural light in your work is something that you say, hey, this is important to me, or I work with natural lighting, it's important.
Yes, I well, my work heavily revolves around either natural light or trying to simulate natural light. I came across one of your reels just the other day about it was a side by side comparison of what it's like to create a setup where you reflect through a scrim and everything, and you guys just have basically, I think that's the one you're talking about with the umbrella
Yes.
light coming from under and then just bouncing off. Yeah, I found that pretty fascinating because of that ability to achieve that kind of lighting with just a very simple setup. I found that really, really cool. In the Philippines, I don't think anyone has kind of tried something in any form similar. Like when I have to do something similar to that, I have quite a complicated setup because I don't have you don't have something as easy as your product. Actually, it's
Mm.
to build, it's kind of like I have to build something from scratch, which tends to be quite complicated, especially if we're working in uncontrollable environments with weather or things that, or if things have to be much faster paced. These kind of things, they need a certain kind of precision, which is hard to achieve unless I have enough time. Danny, this is absolute pleasure talking to you. Like I was very surprised that this is a nice way to spend my evening and get again talking to you about this. It's very breath of fresh air.
That's very heartwarming for me, and it was a pleasure as well.
I am good, baby. Perfect.